Hi, thank you for joining me today. This is Deana, and we're at the Remnant Nation channel with this new episode. Before I begin, I want to remind you of the Dream Journal website, newwinepouring.com, with one W. At the top of any one of the pages you come to is a Contact Us link that if you click on it, it will take you to a correspondence page where I would love to hear from you. So that's how you can connect with me. You will probably be getting this podcast through the YouTube channel. I'm trying to build it up because my two main channels are iHeartRadio. Remnant Nation Radio is the name of the channel at iHeartRadio. And for Spreaker, my main podcast platform is Spreaker Remnant Nation Radio. So those are the two top ones that I use. And YouTube, they've been sending as a service, they've been sending my podcasts to YouTube, downloading them on YouTube. And so now I'm building up that channel to make good use of that. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe at New Wine Pouring too, and subscribe at Remnant Nation Radio on YouTube, and hit that notification button so that you'll be notified every time that I load up a new podcast there. So recently I put up a dream that I had September 30th, 2023, that actually had to do with Mike Bickle. And so if you're acquainted with the International House of Prayer in Kansas City, Mike Bickle has been sort of in the forefront of Christian news lately because there were some allegations against him. But I had a dream like 28 days before all of this came out, and that dream basically just giving it a headline, because I'm not going to go into it, you can go listen to it if you're interested, but the headline would be that it's sort of a showdown, or when two kingdoms clash, and one of them is division, strife, and every evil work, and the other one is the ministry of the word of reconciliation. And so the dream was sort of epic. It had a lot of dialogue in it. There was a lot of teaching, preaching, and counseling in it in regard to the word of the message of reconciliation, and also a lot of dismantling the operating system of division, strife, and every evil work. So division, strife, and every evil work, by the time that it gets to that point, it has its own intelligence. It's literally an operating system from Satan, from hell, right? So those were the two things that were in that dream. And it had the background setting of it was Mike Bickle, IHOP, and a young gentleman that was sort of a product of Mike Bickle's ministry, like somebody like a son of the house is how I described him. But anyway, if you want to know more about that, you can go to the podcast. It's probably lined up below this one that I'm going to put out. So this is another dream entry. And I had this dream about a week ago, completely, shifting channels here now, going back to some of the dreams about America's troubles, and things we need to be alerted to and be aware of and awake to. This whole country needs to be awakened to the fact that we need to pray, we need to be interceding, we need to have watchmen on the wall for this country and for our soldiers that are all over the world, for what is important to us as American citizens, our sons and our daughters that are out there in uniform. Now's not the time to slack. Now's not the time to sleep. We've got to be awake. So just to refresh people's memory, a few videos ago, if you're looking at YouTube, a few podcasts ago, I had a brother share a dream that he had. He's new in the Lord, and he had this amazing dream. I would describe it more like a night vision, because he didn't know that he was dreaming. He thought he was awake when he was experiencing an attack on our city, that city where he was living in. I say our because I used to live there years ago. So, and it's in an interesting place. I think it's in a strategic place, actually, in a part of this country. So, anyway, all of that information is there if you go down a few videos, if you're looking at YouTube. Like I said, I'm trying to build up this channel, so I'm focusing on it right now. But if you go down on the lineup, if you go down a few videos, you'll find a video that says, oh no, I don't know I can't remember what the title of it is. Just go down a few videos that look like a dream or vision about America or something like that. There's a few of them, so it isn't going to hurt you to listen to them, because maybe it will cause you to want to pray and become an intercessor and intercede for this country. Become a watchman on the wall. We're called to warfare. We are called to warfare. We are in a war. You know, in the scripture in Revelation, it says they made war with the Lamb. It's just my personal feeling that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is not something that's going to happen. I believe that it has been happening from the very beginning. So they're running, the course of they're running out their course, and coming to a finishing of it, and which is the grand finale of what's happening in Israel. That looks like we might be getting to that place right now. So these are very interesting times to be in, and we need to answer the call to be awake and to be in prayer, and at any time, being available to God. For this is the time we're in right now. You were born to be here at the time you're in. You're able. This time that we're in, we're equipped. We are equipped. And if we're not equipped, we don't feel like we're equipped, then we need to seek God to equip us for the times that we're in right now. But for this we were born. I believe that. I believe the generation of children that are alive today that are Christians, that a lot of them have just amazing focus, and especially the ones that God's using to evangelize all over the world, but like in this country, on subways, on airplanes, at airports, standing up in the middle of a mall, and just everywhere in the streets, and then not only that, but by demonstration, preaching the gospel, but then also demonstrating the power of God, laying hands on the sick, casting out devils, and speaking with new tongues, just manifesting the gifts of the Spirit. So we're in incredible times, and it's really good to be awake right now. In Jesus' name. If you're not awake, wake up, because you don't want to miss this party, okay? You just don't want to sleep through it. And wake up, because you will wake up. You will wake up. At some point in time, you will wake up. And when you do, you don't want to be caught without your armor on, like in a stupor. And this is why the scripture calls us to be sober. Don't fall into a drunken slumber. You don't want to do that. So anyway, this dream that I had two. So I had two. The first one was right after that this brother shared. And actually he is a literal brother. He's my brother-in-law. And he gave his life to the Lord a little over a year ago, and he had this incredible dream. So we were sharing that dream, and we were, I was just deep into it, podcasting it, sharing it within our prayer group. And so I was deep into it, and so a couple of days later, I have a dream about the same town, the same region, part of the country, and it was crazy because it had to do with an invasion, like the dream, that we shared with the brother. And so it was so close to his dream in timing, and it was in the same city, and it was similar. I thought, well, it might be because I'm just deep into his dream, and maybe it's coming out in my dreams. And so I put that on the shelf. And but now 2 months later, I have another similar dream about the same city. And so the first dream was in that part of the country, and it's a mid-size city out in the west. And that particular area, there's 3 airports. That's why I feel like it might be a target for the enemy if they ever wanted to invade the West Coast, because there's really not a whole lot between those 3 airports. And if you go as the crow flies from those 3 airports straight to the Pacific Ocean, it wouldn't take long. If there was like carriers out there, aircraft carriers of the enemy out there, I mean, it just wouldn't really be hard to get to that place. They'd have to go over a state, There's these 3 airports that are close to each other, but one of them is an airport or Air Force base. One's a cargo. So why wouldn't you want that piece of real estate out there? China has a lot of land in the area that I'm talking about. They've bought up a lot of land. For some reason, in this podcast, I don't want to identify the area, but it's been identified in another dream. I don't know why I don't want to do it. I just don't feel like I want to get into it, because the second dream is a different place anyway. So the first dream, I'm at one of the airports, and I have the cargo airport on one side, and then the Air Force Base airport airstrip on the other side, and I'm in the middle, lined up with the main street that goes straight down to the Capitol building. And I'm just standing there observing what's going on. And I see that there are rockets. There's smaller sized rockets that are just going overhead. And it feels like I'm in the middle of a fight between 2 fractions there. And one group of rockets, they're coming from the Air Force Base. And the other group of rockets are coming from who knows where. They're being shot towards the Air Force Base. And so they're doming up over the top of this international airport. It is a smaller airport, but it is listed as an international airport. And I'm standing there watching these rockets going over the top of me, arching up and coming down, 40 miles apart from each other. And then while I'm standing there, all of a sudden, this missile comes out from behind me. And it goes right past me, overhead, real close to the ground. And it's heading straight down into downtown, towards the Capitol building of the state. The missile, now this is like a Scud missile. It looks like a Scud missile. It looks like a torpedo that's just going right past me. Felt like it was like an older missile from another era. And then that dream was over. And that was the one I was thinking, well, he had a dream of bombs going off in that city and cargo planes flying in and parachuters coming out of it that were enemy parachuters, he believed. And when it came down to it, they weren't people, they were drones. And so, but there were people in his dream being carried off in cattle trucks, and which reminds me of a dream that I had 40 years ago that you can find on my website. It's called America's Troubles. Write this down. Go look at it because it's got a lot of stuff in it. But it's called America's Troubles, Dreams 1982 through 1989. New Wine Pouring. If you Google that, it'll come up. So again, it's America's Troubles, 1982, 1989 dreams, new wine pouring. And I mean, there were dreams that I had where I saw the third horseman of the apocalypse. I believe it was the third horseman because there's the white, the red, the black. And so I saw 3 of the black horsemen of the apocalypse trot right over across the top of the United States of America, heading from the west or the northwest down to across to the east and southeast. So I figured it out finally that it was absolutely coming from west, northwest. And anyway, but if you go and look at the article, you'll understand. And the article was written like I had family members and I had friends and a pastor that I shared those dreams with back in real time in the 1980s. Because in 1982, I was only 4 years old in the Lord because I was born again in 1978. So 79, 80, 81, 82. So I started having these dreams just 4 years after I was saved. And at the time, nobody was talking about having dreams like these dreams. They were just epic, and they felt very real. And I was in concentration camps. I was being moved around by a government that seemed like it wasn't really the United States government. They were some kind of government that had, for whatever reason, a jurisdiction in our country, and I believed it was because there was an army of people that came in to help U.S. citizens evacuate from the Pacific West Coast, especially in the Seattle area, and that evacuation went way over, clear into other states, was getting all of these people coming and being moved around. They were moving around just a large portion of the citizens in this country from off the West Coast. And I saw a missile, and I saw it land, and the next thing I know, and I was in an evacuated place, actually, in that part of the country that was not too far from the dream that I had where the rockets were going back and forth. And the other dream the brother had that he saw at that mid-sized city getting hit. And but I'm out in the rural area, sort of, I would say probably northwest of that area. So like 45 minutes away. And I'm in the third person watching this thing happen, and this nuclear wind came through, and it was really hot, and I was looking over the properties of this desert area, and the houses, the barns, and the fences, and the corners of the fences, and the corners of the houses, and the grass, the tall grass, started to just combust. And then that was immediately I was out of that dream. And so anyway, I've been carrying that dream for 40 years, and they put us in schools, like when they were moving us around. The thing is, and I'll tell you this, and then I'll be done with it because I don't want to get into those dreams, but what I learned out of those dreams and others that had to do with being evacuated and mass evacuations, and was that when this army is here, this humanitarian aid, it's probably the UN or something like that, One World, whatever, I don't know. But it's like America is not able to handle what's happening to it. And so they send humanitarian aid because I saw that we were invaded by an army of people. They were not enemies. They were evacuating American citizens and getting us replaced, and lots of people were displaced, and they were being moved around into new parts, different parts of the country. But once they fell, the American citizen fell under the jurisdiction of this humanitarian aid, they lost citizens' rights. It was like, well, you're no longer under the Constitution of the United States. An army of people that wore black uniforms that were here to help move people around, but they were also sorting people, and they were putting them in the system, and they began to divide people up. So some families were just relocated and put into, so they could start their lives over, but then other people were actually put under a detainment order that never got out of that detainment order. And that probably has to do with maybe what they believe, or it was just they were sorting through people and in that dream. And so there became this unchained custody situation that I found myself in, and being moved around throughout the United States from one concentration camp or detention area to another. And one specific place that it just kind of bothers me is that I started out on the West Coast, ended up over on the East Coast, where North Carolina and Virginia, on that coast, and something happened to that coast, because that coast was not how it looks right now. It was something. It looked like the sand just was shoved up. Something happened there. Something major, catastrophic happened there, and it created a lot of sand inland, and all the houses and everything's gone. And I don't know, maybe 5 miles in, maybe more, I don't know, that they utilized that as a military installation, for detaining people, another place to put a lot of people. And so I go into the details about that. But anyway, that was 40 years ago. The second dream that I had was, again, we were in a small town, but this was a smaller town than the first one, where they were those rockets were arcing up over my head. Now it's like evening, the sun just went down. We're not in the west anymore. Now I'm in the south, which this is where I'm at. We're in a kind of like small town America, not real tiny, but not very big either. And we just came out of a restaurant. We were walking with a group of people. We were talking. I knew everybody. There's about 8 of us, and the crazy thing is that we had stopped and were talking in front of the United States Post Office in this town. And this town is sort of a blend of 2 different towns that I know of. And so it's not really a specific town. Like I said, it's like a blend of 2 different ones. And so we're talking in front of the U.S. Post Office. And I noticed that I look up, and across the street is a courthouse, an old courthouse. It was a nice brick courthouse with white trim, and so was the post office. And it was just like a really nice, quaint downtown people like to go to on a weekend and check out the shops, that type of place. But on top of that courthouse were like 5 men with long guns. And what was weird is that wasn't weird to me. I just looked up and saw them up there, and It was like no big deal. So obviously something's going on in the world that it's not unusual for, 5 town guys, looking, they didn't look military. Like 5 guys from town are, I guess, taking their turn standing up on top of the courthouse with long guns, keeping watch. And, but this time when I looked up, they were pointing to something, their guns towards the west. And where we were at in this scene, it was like the city was kind of on a ridge, and then it went down, and then it went up again like a mountain. And I could see real far and, the horizon real good. And they were pointing the guns over there. They were starting to get into formation, and just like they had their eyes on something. And I'm looking like, what do they see, And I saw a silhouette of what looked like a smaller cargo military plane, and heard the sound of like a helicopter, but it was passing the courthouse quite a ways away. And they're not flinching, and they're focused on something. They're looking. And so I'm looking too, trying to see what they're seeing, and then all of a sudden I realize, again, the same kind of rocket, or it was like a Scud missile that was like a torpedo, acting like a torpedo, but it wasn't in the water. And so it's about, 20 feet, 25 feet up in the air, going straight, horizontal, just coming right towards us. And at first I didn't see it because it was at night. Then I saw, there it was, like a Scud missile, torpedo-looking thing coming right at us. And I thought, it could hit the mountain, the side of the mountain that we're on, the ridge that we're on, but it looks like it might hit some buildings that are right there on that ridge too. So I started to run. I'm yelling at everybody, I'm in that crowd of people. I go, run! And I turned around and ran about 3 or 4 steps, and they didn't move. They were just looking at me. And I go, run! And I ran again about 20 more feet and turned around like, are you coming? Come on, run. And nobody was running. They were just looking at me. And I turned around and kept running like, we got to get out of here. And they just, it was just like that cognitive dissonance thing that was going on. Like, do you understand that we're in danger now? Is it enough that we have 5 guys with long guns on top of the courthouse that, they're not just milling around, they're actually pointing at something, but that wasn't enough. So I don't understand, but in that dream, I could not get those people to run to save their lives. But that was the end of the dream. So I didn't have to see the thing, slam into a building or see an explosion or anything, but that was the dream. So that was like the other dream that I had before. So I don't know what is going on there. I don't know why I'm having those kind of dreams. I'm not focusing on that. I know people are talking about all kinds of things. Be in prayer. The Lord gives me dreams, visions, and prophecy, prophetic encounters. And what I do is I extract from them the word that the Lord gives me. And if I have a dream, like extract from that dream whatever that word is that I feel like God's giving me. Based on Jeremiah 23:28, that says, he that has a dream, let him have the dream. He that has a word, that give the word. What is the chaff to the wheat? Meaning that dreams carry the kernel, but there's a lot of process that has to be done. Whenever you get a dream, you have to process that dream. You got to go to the Lord and ask him to help you unpack it and understand the symbolisms and all of that. Some dreams are straight up, and that's usually the type of dream that I have, is just a straight up dream. There's just really nothing to interpret. Like the dream I just told you about, we were at a restaurant, we were standing in a group, and there's, some long guardsmen up on top of the courthouse. I mean, it doesn't need a lot of symbolism. I think it's just outright someday it's going to look like that if we keep living, moving towards this world that we all seem to be moving towards. I think that actually there's cities and municipalities, there's counties that need to probably meet with the citizens of this country. We need to meet together and talk about our safety, because if we think that the United States government, we think that Homeland Security, if we think that the National Guard or our own troops are going to be able to do anything for us in this World War III that we probably are already involved in, if we think that they're going to be able to protect us from all that we already have in this country that have crossed into our borders, we have another thing coming. What we need to be doing is evangelizing these people coming across the borders, sharing the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. I hear about people saying, oh, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, we're going to get on an airplane and fly to another continent to spread the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Well, the nations are coming to us. The nations are coming to us. We don't need to leave this country to go and spread the gospel anywhere else, because they're all coming to us. We have a field out here. They're needy too. The people that are coming in are needy. They need help. If we don't help them, then we've got to assimilate these people into this country. There's nothing else that we can do. We can't reject them. Yes, we can, vote in congressmen and senators and a president that we hope will, build the wall, and that these people will be coming in. They will be processed rightly. They will be processed legally. That no human being will be subject to human trafficking. We need to make sure our laws are working and supporting the rule of law, but also getting people processed and prayed for and evangelized and sharing Christ with them, because if we fail to do that, we treat them like enemies rather than, like the scripture says, do not treat the foreigner badly. Don't do that. We can't do that. They made choices to be here illegally, but it's not their fault. We opened our border right away. We opened our border when Biden got in. The first thing that he said was he invited everybody in, and he opened the borders. And so all these people are looking for a better way of life. They're being disappointed. A lot of them are getting disappointed. A lot of them are being used and abused. And this is wicked, and it's demonic, and it's dark. So the Christians in this country have got to rise up and be the warriors that we're called to be the soldiers we're called to be, and passionately walk in love towards the world that's coming to us. But we've got to recognize that there's a Macedonian call out there. There's a field white, ready for harvest, and we've got to mobilize in the spirit. Mobilize. If we mobilize in the spirit, then God will put it all together, because what needs to be done is bigger than us. It's huge. So anyway, those were my two dreams. We've got to pray our country wises up, and we don't look for everybody else to protect us. And yes, we've got to, isn't it interesting that horrific attack that happened in the Gaza Strip, and the people the horrible things that happened. And could you imagine if those people had AR-15s? If they had a gun like that in every one of the homes, the casualties would have been far less. I mean, I remember a few years ago where it wasn't uncommon to see Israelites walking down the street with a gun. Everybody is trained to defend themselves and defend their country. And so maybe we need to look at that and know that we don't know who is in our country. A few years ago, 2007, where I was having dreams of the borders being wide open. In 2007, I had a dream that a South American mother was standing up on a hill in South America, lifting up her baby up towards America and saying, "Take my baby, take my baby." That was in 2007. In 2009 or 10, I had a dream of all these South American children just spilling over out of the woods into our lawns, into our American neighborhoods. And I was like, where are these children coming from? We didn't know that they were in a year or 2 years after that coming into this country without adults, and there was 85,000 children that they don't know what happened to them. They don't know where they're at even right now. So all of this is insane. But these warning dreams, another dream that the Lord gave in 2016 was I called it America's Homeland Invasion. And that experience that I had, if you look that up, it's on the lineup. If you go to newwineporn.com, it'll take you right there if you just scroll. And it's called, because I pinned it to the top, it's called America's Homeland Invasion. And it goes into an experience, an encounter that I had that was one of the craziest experiences I've ever had in my life, the top 5 prophetic encounters. And so the Lord was letting me experience what it was like to have your home invaded. It's just a horrific thing. And so I literally experienced what it was like to have my home invaded while I was in it. And through the whole dream, I thought I was awake. In fact, I went into the vision. It wasn't even a dream. I didn't fall asleep or nothing. I was up in the morning, and I was talking to my husband, and he went to work, and I said goodbye. And as soon as he went out the front door, I fell into a full vision and experienced a home invasion. And then at the end of all of that, at the end of that home invasion, where the end of that dream, if you look at it, but I was in sort of a trance, and I explained all of that in that article. And then I write, and it's lengthy. I get a lot of revelation out of these things, is that realizing what the Lord is showing me, that our country, this thing in 2016 is not going to go away, and we're going to hit a crisis, but there are things that we can do that could cause people to turn around and leave the country. And so I've been praying about the wisdom on how to get people back to their own home countries, and passing laws that will accommodate them to reverse this thing. And yet the ones that are truly asylum seekers, get them processed. The ones that really do have a lot of violence to go back home to, get them in the country, because we're supposed to be able to take refugees. Some of them are refugees and some of them are American dream seekers. And so there's a difference there. So anyway, I don't know. That's my entry for tonight. We covered a lot of ground, actually. So, leave a comment if you've ever had any dreams that you thought were like, or that you you think is a warning or has an importance of some kind or needs to be just put out there, put it in your comments. Share your dream in your comments and your thoughts. Engage with us on YouTube. I'll tell you though, if you get ugly, I'll just delete your comment. I'm not going to put up with that kind of thing. But if you really want to engage in some conversation, make sure that you do. Well, until we meet again, God bless.